Welcome back to Wrestling What If, where we stretch the limits of wrestling history and imagine a world that could have been. Today, we dive deep into one of the most legendary cult promotions in wrestling history, ECW. What if Extreme Championship Wrestling didn't just stay underground, but instead rose to the very top, standing shoulder to shoulder with WWF and WCW in the late 90s? This is a scenario where the rebellion wins. Let's step through this alternate wrestling timeline, where ECW's raw, passionate, and extreme identity becomes not just a movement, but a legitimate empire. The roots of ECW. In the early 90s, the wrestling world was in transition. The territory system was dying, and Vince McMahon's WWF had nationalized wrestling in the United States. Meanwhile, WCW, backed by Ted Turner, served as the corporate Southern counterweight. But in a bingo hall in Philadelphia, something new was forming. ECW, originally Eastern Championship Wrestling, began as a small Northeastern independent affiliated with the NWA. But when Paul Heyman took the creative reins in 1993, he tore up the rulebook. After Shane Douglas famously threw down the NWA World title in 1994 and declared ECW's independence, the company rebranded as Extreme Championship Wrestling, setting the tone for the most defiant promotion of the decade. Where WWF had cartoon heroes and WCW had ex-WWE stars and old-school wrestling, ECW embraced chaos, grit, and danger. It was a haven for outcasts, brawlers, lucha libre daredevils, and purists alike. Blood, tables, barbed wire, profanity, and anti-establishment energy were the lifeblood of ECW, and its small but ravenous fanbase felt more like a cult than an audience. But despite its cultural importance, ECW remained the little promotion that could, until now. The turning point. A new 1997. In our timeline, ECW's big break came in 1997 with its first pay-per-view, Barely Legal. It was a massive moment for the company, but in reality, the PPV almost didn't happen. Financial issues, limited promotion, and cable company skepticism almost killed it before it aired. Now let's imagine a different scenario. What if Barely Legal is a runaway hit? The buzz is massive. Critical reviews are glowing. The mainstream media takes notice of this underground phenomenon, a promotion that blends the brutality of death matches, the athleticism of lucha libre, the realism of Japanese puroresu, and the raw energy of punk rock. From here, the dominoes fall. National TV deal. In this timeline, a network like MTV, FX, or even UPN sees the potential of ECW and gives them a late-night weekly show. With WWF still struggling pre-Attitude Era and WCW starting to lose steam post-MWO peak, ECW gets a major TV foothold just before wrestling explodes again. Financial backing. Enter a key figure, a silent investor or partner, someone with deep pockets and business savvy, but who trusts Paul Heyman to lead creatively. Think along the lines of a Mark Cuban-type figure or an early adopter tech billionaire looking to disrupt traditional media. ECW now has the one thing it always lacked: infrastructure. Strategic partnerships. Sponsorships come in from alternative brands, skate companies, Rockstar Energy, Hot Topic, ECW-branded video games, think early PS1 titles, and even music collaborations. Bands like Korn, Slipknot, and Rage Against the Machine align with the ECW aesthetic. Cross-promotion becomes part of the brand's DNA. ECW becomes not just a wrestling company, but a lifestyle brand, like Hot Topic with power bombs. The new roster landscape. Perhaps the most exciting aspect of ECW's success is what happens to the talent landscape. In reality, ECW was the launch pad or final stop for some of the most important wrestlers of the 90s. But because the company couldn't afford to pay them or offer long-term stability, many left for greener pastures. But in this alternate timeline, things play out differently. Steve Austin. Instead of becoming Stone Cold in WWF, Austin perfects the anti-authority badass in ECW. The mic skills he displayed in his scathing promos on Bischoff and WCW become the building blocks of the most iconic ECW character ever. Austin vs. Taz, Austin vs. Raven, Austin vs. Sabu, main event feuds we never saw now become reality. The Cruiserweight Core EC's lightweight division becomes the envy of the world. Rey Mysterio Jr., Psychosis, Juventud Guerrera, and Super Crazy aren't poached by WCW. Instead, they stay in ECW and are treated as main event level athletes. Meanwhile, Chris Jericho, Eddie Guerrero, Dean Malenko, and Chris Benoit build a technical elite division, pushing the art of wrestling into new territory years before ROH or NJPW ever caught fire in the West. Homegrown stars. Stay ECW originals like Rob Van Dam, Sabu, the Dudley Boys, Tommy Dreamer, Taz, Sandman, and Raven become global wrestling icons in their own ecosystem, not as guests in WWE or WCW. Taz is pushed as a legitimate MMA-style killer. RVD becomes the laid-back, stoner-servant showman of ECW. Raven cuts promos that become pop culture legend, and Dreamer, the loyal soldier, becomes the face of ECW's heart and soul. A three-way war. In this timeline, the Monday Night Wars evolve into a Monday Night Triangle. ECW Revolution Weekly Show, airing on MTV at 10 p.m. It mixes live music, backstage chaos, pre-taped grungy promos, and matches that blur the line between cinema and sport. The TV format is fresh. Think Fight Club meets Raw is War. No red ropes, no cheesy graphics, just exposed concrete, handheld cameras, and madness. Impact on WCW. Now caught between two fronts, WWF on one side and a resurgent ECW on the other, WCW starts losing both talent and audience. The bloated contracts and creative stagnation hit harder and faster. Without a monopoly on cruiserweights and without the ability to adapt fast enough to ECW's innovation, WCW bleeds out. By 1999, WCW is sold off, not to Vince McMahon, but possibly to ECW's parent company or a competing network looking to capitalize on wrestling's boom. WWF's transformation without ECW feeding it ideas and talent, WWF's Attitude Era may arrive later, or look very different. ECW forces Vince to react even more aggressively. We might get a more violent, more reality-based version of Attitude, one where characters like Mankind, DX, and The Rock are pushed in darker, more grounded directions to compete with ECW's grit. Creative legacy. One thing ECW always had, despite its lack of money, was the best creative atmosphere in wrestling. Now with resources and reach, that creativity becomes generationally influential. Promos become poetry. Characters bleed into real life. Feuds are rooted in psychological scars, not just titles. Hardcore wrestling evolves, not just chair shots and blood, but storytelling through violence, matches that feel like street fights with stakes. Long-form booking thrives. Raven vs. Dreamer isn't a 6-week feud. It's a 2-year arc with layers, callbacks, and emotional payoffs. ECW, in this timeline, becomes the HBO of professional wrestling, an alternative for fans who want more than flashy entrances and one-liners. Wrestling's new timeline. So what's the domino effect? No WWE monopoly. Vince McMahon never becomes the sole ruler of wrestling. ECW and WWF split the top tier, while new promotions struggle to enter the scene. AEW never exists. Tony Khan's dream of an alternative isn't needed because ECW already was the alternative. The indies stay small. Without the ECW void, ROH, PWG, and others never catch fire the same way. Wrestling's reputation changes. With ECW as a visible, successful brand, the industry feels cooler, younger, and more rebellious in the public eye. Streaming pioneer, ECW, with its passionate base, builds a digital platform early, becoming the first to launch a wrestling streaming network, way before WWE. Could ECW survive the 2000s? Yes, if it evolved smartly. ECW doesn't have to stay just barbed wire and chair shots. It could adapt to PG-13 content for cable while reserving hardcore for PPVs. Sign international stars like Kenta, Okada, and Daniel Bryan in the 2000s. Run global tours, partner with indie companies, and embrace technology. The key is staying true to its identity. Reality, passion, innovation, rebellion. With Paul Heyman at the creative helm and the right business team behind him, ECW could have become not just a company, but a cultural institution. Final thoughts. In this reality, ECW didn't die in 2001. It surged in 1997 and reshaped wrestling forever. Its stars didn't fade away, they rose under its banner. Its influence didn't whisper, it screamed through arenas around the world. And fans didn't just watch, they lived ECW. The revolution was never meant to die, it was meant to win. Thanks for watching Wrestling What If. Like, subscribe, and comment your favorite ECW dream match you wish had happened. And tell us, would you have jumped ship from WWF to ECW back in the day? Until next time, stay extreme.